Thank you, Andy. Alberto, so wonderful to see you again, as it is to see my peeps from Westlake Village. And always good to be at CME. Feels like home. It feels like home. So it's Super Bowl Sunday. Did you know that Chris Christopherson wrote a country western song called, and this is no joke, he wrote a song called Drop Kick Me Jesus Through the Goalpost of Life. Yeehaw! Mm-hmm. So there you go. And one of the line, the last two lines of one of the verses says, I've got the will, God, if you've got the toe. So I think we're in good hands today. Since I like Pete Carroll, you know who I'm rooting for. He was on the cover of Mindful magazine in December and brought in the idea of how he works with the ideas of meditation and mindfulness. And this is not a new thing anymore. It's going into boardrooms. It's going onto the sports field. It's going into offices. And yes, on the other hand, we see what we're experiencing in the human realm of experience. So do you know that you're about to kick off the celebration for Season for Nonviolence? Did you get the handouts at all today for the 64 ways, 64 days? No. How many people don't have a clue what I just referred to about anything? Okay, so let me give you a fast preview. On January 30th, 1998, that date marked the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Gandhi, of Mahatma Gandhi. And then fast forwarding, on April the 4th, that marked the anniversary of the death of Martin Luther King Jr. So a group of people got together and they said, what if, a greater idea, what if we took those 64 days between January 30th and April 4th and brought together a welcoming invitation for everyone to participate in, let's call it a season for nonviolence, furthering peace, harmony, unity, and the oneness of all life. And so that became the Season for Nonviolence, and the project was cooperatively brought forth by the Gandhi Institute, by the Martin Luther King Social Action Training Programs, and by a representation of New Thought centers and communities headed up by the Association for Global New Thought. Anybody aware of the Association for Global New Thought? And so that became a world global event. It has been celebrated many times at the United Nations. Proclamations have been issued throughout many communities throughout the United States that bring these ideas in the ways that are most appropriate to the situation into schools, into offices, into government. And so New Thought communities have celebrated it, and this would be, therefore, the 18th year. The Season for Nonviolence and those 64 ways for 64 days to bring spiritual practice into your lives is simply a large sheet which you will have in your possession. And each day you are offered the opportunity to bring a creative process into the structure of your everyday practices. And I know for myself, who can't use something of formal structure that continues to invite and insist that we follow a spiritual program. And so, for example, it started on Friday, and the message for Friday was courage. One word, and then it offers you an exercise to enhance that. And they gave the Eleanor Roosevelt quote on Friday that said, you must do the things. I'm going to put in a word she didn't have in there. You must do the things you think you cannot do. So which word do you think I inserted in that? Think, exactly. You think you can do something, or you think you can not do something. And in either case, you know you're right. We heard that before. The second day, yesterday, Saturday, was smiling, just to consciously be aware of not allowing your own preoccupations and your own frowning considerations to block that countenance of joy and gladness, happy that you're aware of your godliness and you're aware that everywhere you're looking, you're facing that same divine radiance. So smile. Smile at new people. Just go up to a total stranger. Stare him in the eye and then grin like a fool. They'll love it, or they'll run like hell. Either way. Not sure. Not sure. So today is appreciation, and your exercise for today is to enumerate in writing 10 things that you appreciate about yourself. Okay, so nonviolence. You know, many of the New Thought communities already, when they heard the word nonviolence, did not like the negative aspects of that word, so we all started fiddling with it. Peace, the season for peace, the season for harmony, the season for love, the seasons for be nice to yourself and be good to other people, anything. But that nonviolence, you know, we know so much, we think about the power of mind, that our language and the words we use are of vital importance. So let's get rid of anything that has a tinge of negativity. And yet nonviolence holds a key, particularly because it came from a word, ahimsa, that Gandhi came from his own tradition to offer. And ahimsa simply translates to, yes, to love, to truth, predominantly to nonviolence, to be aware that there can't be lack of violence unless there is something within us that is violent. And you know, it's interesting to me that the peacemakers, particularly in this case, Gandhi and King, met with violent deaths. You ever see the way that life works in contrast? And we can even back it up and know that Jesus, which personified a man as the Christ consciousness, as God in action, that he too met with crucifixion. And so we can say to ourselves metaphysically, well, how could that be? Someone who practiced peace, harmony, kindness, generosity, goodness. How could this be that they would meet this final death? How could they not be subject to the evil and the anger and yet walk away from it and be a teacher of truth while at the same time meeting the physical end of their lives as we know it to be? So let's back it up. What about Jesus the Christ? Okay, we're going to the first slide. She became a techie overnight. Oh my God, I'm impressed. Okay, so it said in Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 and 39. This is from the Lamsa translation of the Bible, George Lamsa. The Aramaic translation, actually. You have heard that it is said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you that you should not resist evil, but whoever strikes you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also. Oh, right. So if I get clonked on one cheek, I'm supposed to say, I loved it so much, do it some more. No. Every teacher that has really dedicated their very lives to telling us, stop looking at the obvious, start pulling away some of those veils that are obscuring the inner layers, layer after layer after layer that takes us more deeply within. And so to resist not evil, because you know and I know when something is occurring that is the furthest thing from what we want to have happening in our lives. We want joy, we want love, we want peace, we want creative activity, We want fulfillment. We want peace on earth, goodwill toward all. And yet when it's not happening, the human dynamic, just those ways that we have of reacting through the evolutionary stage of the development of our own brain, the fight or the flight, has us in a position of resist evil, fight it, give it all you got, meet that physical brute force, which Gandhi referred to and King picked it up, as have others. Just resist and just like fight it with your soul. They all have this commonality of dealing with soul power rather than with physical power. And tracing back thousands of years before that time, that's what Jesus said. Turn your cheek to see things from another perspective. Look beyond the obvious. Look beyond the appearance to that indwelling peace which has the capacity to remain calm and serene and to hold control of its own emotional reactivity in the midst of any circumstance. There's a story told of a king in a nice, small, peaceful kingdom that he governed with great satisfaction to all in the kingdom. And all of a sudden, a group of warlords arrive on his threshold. And the primary leader of the warlords comes into the king's office with his brandishing his huge sword and startles the king and says to him, "You are worthless. You have not done anything for the people in your kingdom. So I am here to tell you as I pull my sword from its sheath, are you aware, do you know I could kill you with one sweep of this sword?" And he's on fire. "I could kill you with one sweep of this sword. Do you know that?" And the king looks at him very quietly and says, "And do you know I could let you?" Think about it. What so? Yeah, so give me the point. What? The inner awareness, the inner consciousness to be able to maintain peace and order, interior equanimity in the midst of any circumstance and condition. It's not just a question of mind over matter. We're now going to have Alberto play a little music for that. Could I please have the second slide? Talk among yourselves. How peaceful are you really? Okay, so, all right, I'm going to let this go. Could I please have the second slide? No, it's the short. Yeah, there we go. So, Gandhi, in studying all of the teachings of his Hindu practices as well as modeling the Christ and talking about mind over matter, isn't quite going to hack it. Gandhi said, great causes cannot be served by intellectual equipment only. They call for spiritual effort or soul force. So you and I are in a metaphysical teaching known as the science of mind. And I think I would be fairly accurate in saying when we all discovered it, it was because it was a clear thinking, intelligent idea that didn't really offend our minds. It made sense. If I direct the energy of my thought from a certain level of my self-awareness, a sense of myself as being valuable and valued and cherished and created in the image and likeness of God, which birthed itself through me as a potential to be love, to be creativity, to be kindness, to be joy, to be all that this wholeness of my being contains. I've got to go beyond, I love that phrase, my intellectual equipment, because so many of us put so much validity into the facts, the analysis, the knowledge, the history, all of that, which is wonderful, but it's just one element of a far deeper, bigger, brighter, more beautiful picture. So I've got to start utilizing what they refer to as soul force. So you and I, in the technological language of science and mind, use the Trinity, the triune nature, from the perspective of conscious mind is spirit, that which I say, God is the only power in my life. Would you say that with me? God is the only power in my life. One intelligence, one mind, one spirit. One intelligence, one mind, one spirit. That is what I now direct as an energy. It becomes a quickened, awakened circuitry, a vibration, a frequency, if you will. That is the soul force, which picks it up for us. The soul representing subjective mind, which is one with the universal subjective mind, which is the creative dynamics. It's like the factory that's received an order from management, and now it's just about to fill the order. That's it. Give me what you got, and I'll give you back what you gave me, and that's what you're going to get. Get it? Got it? Good. Okay. Spiritual effort, soul force. Activating the thing I can't quite see with my tangible physical eyes, and yet I know that everything I'm looking at, if I just back it up and go deeper beyond the obvious, traces itself back to spiritual effort or soul force. So, fighting fire with fire. That which seems to say, well, if you hit me, I'll hit you twice. And getting before anyone else takes from you is all part of the mentality of the physical that we're certainly seeing in all the atrocities and horrors in the physical world. Locally and globally, we see a picture, really, of a collective, cumulative state of consciousness that has produced what it's produced, because that's the inevitability of the law. Give me what you got, and you're going to get what you gave. That's the simplicity of how the law of mind works. And so these men who came as peace givers were evil, not in any way whatsoever, but they were even. They walked on uneven ground with an even interior state of mind and heart, so that the warlord could not frighten the king, because there was something that had been cultivated through spiritual effort, discipline. Now we can go to that next slide. We must forever conduct our struggles on the high plane of dignity and discipline. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. Martin Luther King Jr. So if we conduct our struggles from the level of our intelligent intellectual equipment, it's a little bit step higher and better than if we're fighting fire with fire. And yet there's simply deeper and higher levels to go to. Dignity and discipline. I just love that. Dignity means that I carry myself in all of my encounters. Wherever I may be, I don't alter the level at which I either contribute greater dignity or less dignity. I'm that interior balance. Again, I walk evenly on uneven ground. Would you say that with me? I walk evenly on uneven ground. When I first went to the very first Asilomar, the conference that had been going on no longer exists, from the science of mind, religious science, faith tradition, the very first teacher that I heard in Merrill Hall. How many of you got to Asilomar? Beautiful. The very first teacher I heard was Carlton Whitehead, who at that time was the minister in Chicago. And he talked about, he came from a scientific background, and he talked about walking a tightrope. And to me, it always became the symbol, whether you use it as a metaphor, for when I'm walking on that balance, very thin line. That's what walking either the physical or the divine is, because that's the point at which they're together, where you know internally who you are as a divine, perfect spiritual being, and yet you're taking it out. To me, that was always the most significant part of Jesus the Christ on the cross. The fact that the divine current of life extends far above and beyond the sky and deeper beyond what the ground is that I'm standing on. It extends right into the very bowels of the earth. So that's my divine current, that part of the cross that goes straight up and down, that fine tightrope line I'm walking. The extension of the cross is how I'm expressing it in my physical world. So isn't it interesting that even when you see people walking on the tightrope, usually they're doing this, or the gymnasts that are balancing. So to me, it's always like God is, I am. God is, I am. And in fact, this is the symbol for a hearing in signing. This is the sign for God. So again, if you and I can cultivate practices of dignity, to always walk that tall, that straight. You know, the way that we carry ourselves is what precedes us into a room. Nobody's really paying much attention when it comes right down to it at deeper levels of what you're saying, but it's the element of the energy you're carrying that conveys who you really are. And when you and I walk with that sense of joy and excitement, I was watching Mel Brooks from the Geffen Theater. Did anybody see that? Oh my God. Mel Brooks is a nonstop, energetic, divinely currented, externally, physically expressed, magnificent expression of God. He goes with such clarity, and the stories and every one of the anecdotes, and I particularly like his fast-paced way of being. I wonder why. Because I feel that we feed ourselves. This isn't for everyone. His style, my style, your style is yours. And singing the song of God as you requires that you pay attention to what that looks like. But anyway, he's a phenomena. And if you can catch him, it'll be replayed on HBO. The HBO did a special for him on that. So it's the degree to which I carry myself with that dignity of knowing if I truly am an infinite, immortal, unlimited, divine expression of the Most High God, then for God's sake, why don't I start looking it, feeling it, acting it, and being it? Oh, but you don't know. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Yes, I do, because I've had my own. We all experience that which happens through the consciousness of God as us, and yet it's what we do with it. Remember an expression of Wayne Dyer's, a simple little sentence, that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's the simplicity. You know, he said it. We sometimes beef and complain. Oh my God, Wayne Dyer's taking our message. Marianne Williamson, well, she's Course in Miracles, so we'll leave her out of it. Deepak Chopra, Mike Dooley, every one of them are using our principles. Well, why shouldn't they? They're bringing them to an audience which broadens the visibility of what these teachings are about. And if we're beefing about it, then it's what Robert Bitzer from the Hollywood Church of Religious Science used to say. Well, then examine yourself. Look where you can get yourself to a higher level of your own spiritual understanding, where you can be a better teacher, you can be a more effective speaker, and you can be a greater purveyor and conveyor of these principles with greater simplicity and alacrity and precision. Don't you love those words? I am the alacrity and precision of God as me. Let's say that. I am the alacrity and precision of God as me. So where do we go from here? We go to the next teacher of truth. Oh my God, it must be Ernest Holmes. Otherwise, it must be Thomas Trord. So, taking it in bits and pieces here, Gandhi built his whole philosophy of life. Did you know that Holmes referred to Gandhi? He referred to everything and everyone because he brought it all together. So he said Gandhi built his whole philosophy of life around the theory of nonviolence. An ancient Chinese sage said that all things are possible to whoever can perfectly practice inaction. That's that king who said, you are asking me if I realize you could kill me with one brandishing of your sword, and I'm saying, do you realize that I could let you do that? That is the nonviolence that practices perfectly in action. And yet the greatest action that's ever going on is the action that precedes what we do. It's the action of who I am being when I'm doing whatever I'm doing. So, he goes on to say, the Bible says, be still and know that I am God, not the violence, not the pain, not the struggle, not the past experience, not what you're presently going through. I am the God within you, in the midst of you, which is mighty. Look unto me, the scripture said, and you'll be saved. And so perhaps there is a spiritual transcendence of consciousness. What is there? A spiritual transcendence of consciousness, which can dissolve solid facts. The transcendence of this certain divine something within us truly is a power that transcends facts. A certain divine something flowing in, around, and through all things, which nothing can resist. Resist not evil. Turn your other cheek. See it not from the obvious, the thing that captures your attention with your physical eyes, which is natural humanly. Step back, step in, be still, and know that within you is a calm, clear, pristine potential for all that you could ever desire. For goodness. That divine something flowing in, around, and through, which does not to resist, something that the great, the good, and the wise have known, possessed, and used. But too often our way is the way of resistance. Now, the bottom line is, this is your takeaway. We try to reform others without ourselves first being changed. So what I offer to myself today and every day is appreciation, not just because I have eyelashes that are long and dark and pretty. That's the practice of the day. You know, take it a little bit in. I have the capacity for greater kindness, for greater generosity, for greater peace, harmony, and a certain aspect of my own something that knows, as I am aware of the presence of the divine, which is pure love in me, through me, and all around me. That's the kickoff point for truly telling mind, this one knows who she is, so let's give her what she truly has acknowledged her worthiness to receive, the gift that's already been given: life, light, love, wholeness, harmony, goodness. And truly it is a new beginning. It's the season for non-violence. So live it, practice it, embody it, and know that that within you already knows everything about it that needs to be known or done. And that's the way it really is. Thank you, thank you, thank you.